Okay, so we're finally ready to move past graphing systems in order to find the solution. So now we're going to be doing solving systems of equations using algebra. Solving systems of equations. And then there's basically two different methods. The one that we're going to talk about today is called substitution. So I'm going to call this part 1, substitution. So basically, the way that I like to do this is I break it up into what I call types. Now, this is nothing that anyone else does. This is something that I created to make things easier for you in the long run, because there's going to be a whole bunch of different types of systems that you come across. So I find that if I tell you the different types, then you know the best way to solve it, or the easiest way to solve it, so that you're not using a more complicated method than you have to. So I'm going to start with what I call a type 1 system. And a type 1 system is if both equations are in slope-intercept form. So in other words, if they are both y equals something, or technically they could also be x equals something, then the best way to solve that is to set them equal to each other. So type 1 is if both equations are y equals or x equals, then set them equal to each other. So for example, if we have the system y equals 4x minus 8 and y equals 2x plus 10, and you can see that clearly these equations both start with y equals, so this does fall under that type 1 umbrella. So to solve this, we're going to set them equal to each other, just like we wrote. And so what I mean by that is we're going to take what it is that y equals here and set it equal to what y equals there. So it looks like this: 4x minus 8 equals 2x plus 10. And then once you do that, now you're just following the rules that you've been using to solve equations. So this is an equation that has variables on both sides. So I'm going to do the wall and the floor. And then from there, I like to subtract the variable with the smallest coefficient first. So in this case, the variable with the smallest number attached to it is the 2x. So I'm going to start by subtracting 2x from both sides. So that on the left side, now I have 4x take away 2x, which is 2x. I'm going to bring down this minus 8. And then on the right side of the equal sign, the 2x's cancel each other out. 2x take away 2x. That's a 0 pair. And then I bring down the 10. So now remember, the goal of solving an equation is to get the variable by itself. I can see that clearly I don't have the variable by itself, so I have to do another wall floor. The next step is to get rid of the 8. The opposite of a minus 8 is plus 8. So that now the 8's cancel, and I have 2x. And then on the right side, 10 plus 8 is 18. And then to get x by itself, I'll need just one more wall floor, since that means 2x then the opposite is going to be to divide both sides by 2. So that on the left side now, the 2's cancel, and that just leaves x. And now on the right side, we have 18 divided by 2, which is 9. So hopefully that didn't seem too difficult. But I hate to burst your bubble a little bit here, but we are not finished with this equation yet, or with this system yet. Because just like when you graph a system and the answer comes out to a coordinate point or an ordered pair, it's the same thing here. You're still finding the value of x and y that works in both of those original equations. So in order to do that, to figure out what the y value is, we're going to use what we just figured out that x is, and we're going to plug that into either one of those original equations. So I can plug x into, or I can plug 9 into either the first equation or the second equation. It makes no difference. In the end, the answer always comes out the same. So, you know, maybe you don't like subtraction, so you want to do the addition problem. That's fine. Then I'm going to make this so it was y equals 2x plus 10. And we just figured out that x equals 9, so we're going to take this 9, and this is where we're substituting. So we're substituting 9 in for x, so that now this becomes 2 times 9 plus 10. And then 2 times 9 is 18, and 18 plus 10, oops, it's a 10. 18 plus 10 is 28. So now we know that y equals 28. And then, just like I said before, since we're still doing systems of equations, just like when you graph, the answer is going to be an ordered pair. So at this point, I just need to write my answer. It always goes x, oh gosh, come on. It always goes x comma y. The easy way to remember that is that it's alphabetical order, x comma y. And so our x value was 9 and the y value was 28. So if we were to graph those two lines, then the point where they intersect would be at 928. So you can see why most of us prefer to use algebra to solve a system of equations, because this would be an awfully big graph that we would have to make in order to find the point 928 where they intersect. Okay, so hopefully you understand, but we're going to do one more example just to make sure you're following me. So this is going to be, oops. Okay, so this is going to be example 2. And then this system is going to be y equals 3x minus 10. And y equals 5x minus 2. So once again, you can see that clearly both of these equations begin with y equals. So this is what I call a type 1 system. And the best way to solve that is to set them equal to each other. So we take the 3x minus 10 from the first equation. And then we say that it equals 5x minus 2 from the second equation. And then from here, it's just wall floor solve. We do the wall and the floor, subtract the smallest coefficient. So in this case, that's the 3x from both sides. So that over here on the left side, the 3x's cancel. And then be careful, that's a negative 10 that's left there. And then 5x minus 3x is 2x. And then from here, I'm going to bring down that minus 2. And then once again, the goal is to get x by itself. I don't have x by itself, so I know that I need to do another wall floor. This time, I have a minus 2, so the opposite is to add 2 to both sides. So that I have a negative 10 plus 2, which is a negative 8. And then I bring down the 2x. And then once again, I need one more wall floor and divide by 2. And then I can see that x equals negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And then just like the last one, now that we know that x equals negative 4, now we use that to figure out what y equals. So again, you can choose either equation. It doesn't matter which one you do. If I take the first equation, it was y equals 3x minus 10. And we just figured out over here that x was negative 4. So now it's going to be 3 times negative 4 minus 10. So now 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And negative 12 minus 10 is negative 22. So the final step then is to write the answer as x comma y. So that means that this one is negative 4, negative 22. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't seem too tricky. That's it for type 1. So stay tuned for the next video about type 2. Ooh, I'm sure I have your interest peaked now.